Hey everybody, how you doing? Dr. Heldman here, Tech Talk Education. This is part 13 of what is going to be a relatively long Linux cluster computing series of videos, but in this video what I want to do is teach you how to use PowerShell to query all of your cluster nodes. So this should be really super fun, a good way to use Linux on PowerShell on Linux, and a good way to write some PowerShell scripts. Let's get started. All right, you can see here that I have master node running, and if I briefly pop these up, you can see I have the other nodes running as well. Compute node 1, 2, and 3. Now compute node 3 is new. I did a movie on that where we were able to clone a compute node, and it became compute node 3, but we had to do some work to that to get it to work. Now the first thing that I want to do is I would like to, we've got to make sure that we're talking to all of the nodes. So here's how I'll do that. I'll ping them by name. So if I do a ping on pfSense, for example, we know that this shows up in etc host, so we can see that it's responding correctly on 1.1. If I ping master node, which is the computer that I'm currently on right now, the node that I'm currently on, it responds as well. Oops, it doesn't respond. So it's saying 127.0.0.1.1. So let's go take a look at that. So if we do a sudo nano/etc/hosts, that's going to be our host configuration file that we need to do everything. And let's see, master node should be 1.2. It's responding on 1.1. Maybe I'll just get rid of that because I don't really need that in the way anyway. I don't know if that's getting in the way. But you'll notice here that compute node 3 is missing. So I will add that, 192.168.1.5. And what would be the problem if you didn't have that? Well, it wouldn't be able to compute, it wouldn't be able to ping it by name. You could ping it by address. Let's see, Control O, Enter, Control X, and let's see if we can do that again. So I'll try pinging first of all, master node, and it responds from 1.2, which is excellent. Let's ping compute node 1. I know you get the idea, but I'm just trying to make sure that everything is cool. Compute node 2. Compute node 3 responds, and then compute node 2 responds. Everything looks great. So that's super good. Another thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you can SSH into all of these nodes. So if I do an SSH to compute node 1, I'm doing everything by name because it's a little easier. You can see on the bottom of the screen that it says compute node 1. Get my mouse out of the way. Exit to get out of that. Clear the screen. Let's see if we can connect to compute node 2. That looks good. Compute node 2 is out of the way, so we're good there. And let's try doing compute node 3. So up arrow, compute node 3, and it comes back. Now that's because compute node 3 is new. We have not yet SSH'd to it, and so we're getting this fingerprint stuff here. And I will say, yes, that's okay. I want to go ahead and connect to that. Boom. That looks great. There's compute node 3. Okay, so everything is good to go here in terms of what we're going to do. Next thing that you do is just sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade. And I will put a tac y on that. This might take a minute, so I might wind up putting one on hold while this is running. Okay, so that's super good. Here's what we're going to accomplish in this movie. We want to install PowerShell on Debian 12, so I want to teach you how to do that. We want to learn how to use PowerShell on a cross-platform like Linux, which PowerShell is natively built for Windows, but it's been ported to Linux. We want to show you how to remotely query each of the cluster nodes to get basic system info from the cluster nodes. We're going to have to write a PowerShell script to do that. And then we want to show you how to generate and prepare a report that you could use to submit to your bosses or keep in your notebook or whatever. So it's pretty ambitious. So the first thing we do is we click an insertion point here and clear the screen now that we've done that. Next thing we want to do is we're going to install a couple of libraries. And these are kind of odd libraries, so I want to talk to you about those. So we're going to do a sudo apt install. The first thing, and we're going to do a tac-y, so we didn't get prompted with that. First thing we're going to do is a wget, wget, and we're going to get apt-transport-https. Now what this is going to do is allow us to get software, dpkg software, from a repository using HTTPS rather than native HTTP. So that's a good thing. We like that a lot. And of course Microsoft is all about that. So if we want to use any Microsoft code, we're going to have to use HTTPS anyway. So these libraries will allow us, they'll put it right directly into the apt situation, and then we can use HTTPS. Now this thing, software properties common, it provides common functionality for managing software properties and package repositories for Ubuntu-based systems, i.e. Debian-based systems. It allows for management of package repositories, handling of package resources, and support for various package formats. So we'll install those, and that's going to be just fine, no problem there. It doesn't take very long to get this done at all. And you can see the streamer going here. It takes a minute for it to get done, but this is actually a pretty quick little run. So, by the way, you know when you're getting close when you see it processing triggers for ManDB, the man database, that you know that you've safely arrived basically at the end of this thing and everything is successful. Okay, so I'll clear the screen. Next thing we're going to do is an actual wget. Now the reason we installed that HTTPS thing in apt is so that we can go out to Microsoft and actually get something using HTTPS. We're going to go to packages.microsoft.com/config/Debian. I think it's really cool that Microsoft knows about Debian. I guess it's not surprising they know about every spoken language on the planet and all the mathematical stuff. I guess it makes sense that they would know about all the Linux. And then we're going to get packages tac Microsoft tac prod, that stands for production, and this is going to be a Debian package. So we're going to get that package from Microsoft. So I would double check your spelling just to make sure you've got everything keyed in correctly. wget https packages microsoft.com config Debian 12 packages tac Microsoft tac prod stands for production, and we'll hit enter. That all looks very good, and it doesn't take long at all. Now we're going to invoke the dpkg command. So we do a sudo dpkg. This will probably wind up, I think I actually did have to key in my password in order to run update and upgrade. We're going to blow this guy up. We're going to get this guy and we're going to install it so that we can use it. So in this case what we did was we got the package from Microsoft's website. Now we're going to use this package. We're going to install it. So I hit enter. Very good. There's not much to it, not much going on here. And now finally we're at the end. We do a sudo apt install tac-y, and we're going to install PowerShell. Now I should point out that properly, if you're going to write PowerShell like in a document or something, it would be cap P, cap S. But in this case, because we're dealing with Linux, everything's lowercase, that's fine, and it should install this just fine for us. I missed a key step here. I overlooked it, and once you've done this, you've run this sudo dpkg command, you need to do sudo apt update. What it does is it goes back and rereads these Microsoft packages so that you've got them in the list of updates that you can use. And now let's see if we can go ahead and install PowerShell, and that looks very good. That's exactly what we're looking for. And I will put these instructions in the notes down below with this video so that you have those. Okay, now we've got that all done, and if we want to test and see that PowerShell is running, it's just pwsh runs PowerShell, and you get your cool little prompt here. You get a PS here so you know that you're running PowerShell rather than in your regular home directory, And indeed you are in your home directory. And here's your prompt here. So this all looks really good. So this tells me that PowerShell is working correctly. Now let's try this and see if this works. So if I run $, this is an environment variable, is PS version table. You'll notice here how your text shows up in green, and that's telling you that you are issuing a PowerShell command. It may not be a good command, but it's nevertheless a PowerShell command, and we're running PowerShell 7.5.0. So that looks really good, and it's running in Debian, which is a GNU Linux version 12, and this is called Bookworm. Okay, we're good to go there. So the way that you get out of this, I'm going to go ahead and type in exit, and I'll clear the screen. That gets us out of PowerShell, and now we're ready to go ahead and start editing our PowerShell script. I'm going to use Nano for this. I like Nano a great deal. It's my go-to for text editing, but you know you have other text edit solutions here. You've got Mousepad, you've got Vi, you've got a bunch of things that you can use for a text editor. I happen to like Nano. It's quick and easy. So I'm going to call this thing clusterinfo.ps1. Now, even though you're in Linux and you're using PowerShell in Linux, we have to give this thing a PS1 extension because that's how it runs a PowerShell executable. Let me go ahead and paste this code in for you so you can see it. I love this feature here that Nano now has a security feature that says, hey, you're going to paste something in here. Is that okay? I like that a lot. Now notice here that you've got this thing called nodes. There's two things we have to pay attention to here. First of all, on our nodes, $nodes, this is a variable that we're declaring. $sign says that it's a variable. We're calling it nodes, and we're going to update the IP addresses for each of our nodes. So our first node is 1.1. That's master node. Then we've got 3 compute nodes. So I'll take 1.2, and I'll do another one, 1.3. And you should note that these are separated by a comma, space, double quotes. And here I will put in 192.168.1.5. That's compute node 3. Excuse me, now I've got this goofed up. So 1.1, this should be a 2. 1.1 is the pfSense box. I'm very, very sorry about that. So we're going to change all of our nodes to 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and 1.5. Those are all of the cluster nodes that are in the cluster. Now also you'll notice here that we're going to SSH into these things, and it's defaulting to, or the script defaulted to, user, which is not what we need. In my case, it's going to be build. So whatever your username is that you're using to get into each of the cluster nodes, the compute nodes, you're going to have to put that username in there. And I made it consistent across all of them, so it's very easy to get into all of these cluster nodes. So the main idea here, you've got a variable that you've declared called nodes. It's got the IP addresses of all 4 of your cluster nodes that you've got using. This is master node, cluster node 1, 2, and 3. And then you change the SSH name here. That's all you've got to do. The rest is fairly straightforward, but let's see what this looks like. So we're declaring a variable called results. We've got a for each loop for each node in nodes. This is super common to the way that Python looks at for loops. And so the idea here is I have a single node in nodes. So what it's doing here is it's declaring a variable called node, singular, inside nodes. So it comes and grabs this very first one, pops it in a node here, and then it goes and connects to 1.2. Grabs the host name, the uptime, the free, runs some other Linux commands here, and then for each object that we have in this array, we're going to output the node name and then the output itself. And we're finally going to take all of our results here and we're going to populate it into a table. So this is the really cool part, the table part. So what we're doing is we're getting some visual output initially right here. And then we will also put this in a CSV file that we can open up with Excel or Google Sheets, or in our case, we're going to use LibreCalc. So I will do a Control-O and Enter to save that, and Control-X. You could always cat it to make sure that it looked correct. So if you did clusterinfo.ps1, just to see if it looks right, that all looks really good. Now, if we want to run this, what we do is we invoke PowerShell. I'll clear the screen. PWSH for PowerShell. ls works just fine, so it's telling you, it gives you the listing of what's in the current directory. And you can see here that I have clusterinfo.ps1 sitting out there. Now, the way that we have to run that is with a /. So because we're in the same folder, the same directory as this executable, we need to run it using /. It is a nuance of Linux, and I don't mind it at all, but you just have to get used to knowing that you'll have to do that. So then we'll run this thing. Now, here's what's really interesting. You're going to run into this, and it's saying, okay, I went out to 1.2, and I want to do this key fingerprint, and it's SHA-256, and it's not known by any other names. Do you want to do this? I'm going to go ahead and just say, yes, I do want to do that. Okay, and then I'll give it my password, and I've made them uniform across everything here. Okay, there is another one. So it says, oh, 1.5 isn't known about either. Do you want to do that one? Sure, I'll go ahead and do that. And you just got to look at the information. And then here is the output. It's very cool. So all it's doing now in this case is the script is run, and it's telling you that it sees these 4 nodes that are out there. They're all running. It gives you their names, so that's where the host name part came from, and the IP address. But now if I clear the screen and I do an ls, you'll notice here that I have a CSV somewhere. I don't yet have the CSV, but I have proven that this is working here. So what I'll do is I will do a nano. I'll see if I can invoke this from right inside the cluster shell, the PowerShell region here. So let's see if we can just invoke nano right inside here without having to exit and go out to our native prompt. There we go. Let's add one more line here, because what I want to do is I want to output this to a CSV, and I forgot to add the line is what I forgot. So I'm going to put in a comment here, optional export to CSV file. Now a CSV stands for, it's the comma delimited file, and all it's going to do is take the data that it has, put commas in there, and turn it into a table that you can import into any of your favorite spreadsheet options. So we're going to say that $results is going to be equal to, I'm going to pipe that into, export tac C, this is weird, lowercase s, lowercase v. I wish Microsoft would have just kept that as proper case, but they did not. And this could get you in trouble since you're working with Linux. So you're going to want to be careful about your spelling while you're in Linux. Of course, you might get in trouble with even if you're in Windows for certain things. I'm not sure about that. So we're going to say our CSV is no type information, and then our path is going to be /cluster-report.csv. Doesn't have to be proper case, but you want to make sure that you're including the .csv extension on the end of that file name, because we're going to use this to get a complete report. So export tac CSV, we're going to pipe that into results here. No type information, path, boom. Control-O and enter to exit, Control-X to write the file, and Control-X. Let's see if we can do a cat on that. Cat on cluster tacinfo.ps1. That looks great. Now we've got the new line down here that's the export to CSV line. Clear the screen and let's run this. So /, and I will hit my my tab key, my spacebar key, enter, It doesn't show me like it happily does when it's in Debian. Cluster tac info.ps1. Debian, you just hit your tab key and it will automatically fill it in. There must be another key for using PowerShell to fill that information in for you. Run this thing, type in my password, and we've already said yes to the keys, so we're good there. And now it's just outputting what we had before. But if we do an ls here, let's see if we wound up with a cool little CSV. And sure enough, there it is right there. And that's really good. Now, here's why we want this CSV. This is handy as a file, like a spreadsheet file, to send to other people to take a look at. So I'm going to run up here to Applications. I'm going to go to Office and run LibreOffice Calc. This is equivalent to Excel, Google Sheets. It comes natively with Debian 12, so it's really cool. I'll put this away and click Open here. Go to Home, and I want to find that. Where is it at? There it is, clusterreport.csv. I will double click that, and it says, oh, this is how I'm going to output this out. That's fine by me. Where it put commas wherever there was new information like this. So that's why you're seeing it this way. This is totally great. I'm just going to go with commas here and none of the other stuff, and click OK. And there is your information. So if you're looking at this node, you know it's at 1.2. Here's the information for it. And that's a really cool report. Now, unfortunately, all of this is in one column. So you'd have to come through and massage this. Like, it looks to me like LibreOffice Calc, even though these commas were there, didn't actually take and separate that information. And I think that has to do with the fact that the information that we got back here, MIM and swap and file system and so forth, are not separated by commas, even though the first line is. You get the time that they're up. It's been up 35 minutes. There's one user, load average. So you're getting some really good information out of this. That, my friends, is one of the uses that we have for PowerShell. Is we can create a script and have it query systems and find out what their health is all about, how they're doing, and then we can use that information to make decisions about what we're going to do. In a cluster node environment like this, it would be really helpful to get an idea and a sense of how each of the cluster nodes are behaving. Are they, they're working well, they're doing some good work here, and so this data would be very useful for you to understand what's going on with them. Now that's all I've got. I just wanted to show you how to install PowerShell, how to create a script in PowerShell, and then how to run it to get system information out of your Linux cluster nodes. And I think we've accomplished that. You'd have to, you can always massage this, do more with it to get more information out of it, but I think we've done, accomplished our objectives here. Now, if you're liking these movies, I would love it if you would share them with other people, share the link with them to other people. If you like this video, if you would subscribe to the channel so you can get updates on new information, and you're welcome to leave comments. I just want to thank you for listening in on these movies, and I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you in the next movie. Bye-bye.